Hey Eagles fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles Now. Before we start today's video, give it a thumbs up if you guys are excited for the NFL Draft, which literally is a couple of days away. I cannot wait. It's actually like live sports because it will be a live sporting thing. Even if it's not actually live sports, I don't care. I'm super excited. You probably are too. Give this video a thumbs up. I'm trying to get 200 likes. See if 200 of you guys are excited for the NFL Draft. Go ahead, click the like button right now. And then without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, so today's Philadelphia Eagles news and rumor video is very, very interesting in terms of what we are going to talk about. Not a lot of trade stuff, but a lot of draft stuff as well, but a lot of inside the Eagles front office stuff as well. Now, you're thinking, what, that's all confusing? Let me go ahead and explain, starting with Denzel Mims. You say, Denzel Mims, isn't he a wide receiver from Baylor that you love that the Eagles might take in the second round? Yes, but apparently there's a report that Mims visited Philadelphia earlier this year on a draft visit before the whole, stay-at-home stuff happened, and he was scared of Philadelphia. Now, that was a headline that was all throughout the National Football League. Denzel Mims scared of Philadelphia, and Eagle fans naturally reacted, well, if he's scared of Philadelphia, he's not going to become a true Eagle. That's terrible, despite the fact the Eagles have been interested in Denzel Mims from the very start. There was a report that they had called Denzel Mims 5 times during 1 week just to check in to see if, they want to go ahead and draft him. So again, you see the Mims was scared of Philly headline. You're probably saying, what the heck is going on? Listen, it's not the full quote. You got to get the full quote to understand what actually happened, and when you do, you'll learn to love Denzel Mims like you did before actually reading this quote. Here's what Denzel Mims told Inside the Birds, quote, "I went with a couple of teammates and my head coach." This is to Philadelphia. "We went up there and just spent a lot of time together, and the experience I had was very scared. I wasn't familiar with the whole city, and it was a lot going on." See, a lot of people that look scary, and I'm not part of that. I don't like that. I mean, I had a bad experience, you could say, going up there for the first time. But I feel like if I go up there more, and if I get familiar with it, I'll have a great time. Okay, so again, you read the beginning part of that, and you go, okay, Mims visits Philadelphia, says it was very scary, and was uncomfortable for the entire time there. That's not the full thing. Read that last sentence. If I go up there more, I'll get familiar with it, I'll have a great time. This is a small-town boy from Texas who played at Baylor, a college that I went to that is not a very big city in terms of Waco, Texas, then going to the big city of Philadelphia. West Coast, I mean not West Coast, but southern state going all the way to the upper East Coast. It's a different type of culture. It's a different type of city. Now, both cities are obviously great. Waco, small college town. Philadelphia, big, Eagle-loving town. Mims was probably just a little bit overwhelmed because he hadn't visited a city like Philadelphia in his young life. I mean, how old were you when the first time you went to visit a very big city? It's not a big deal that he was quote-unquote scared the first time he was there because, again, Waco to Philadelphia is a very different type of city, and obviously he said there at the very end, if he goes there more, he will feel great about it, and he'll learn to love it. This is probably the same way with any NFL city that he visited that was big. You could insert this quote for New York, you could insert this quote for Los Angeles, you could insert this quote, I mean, technically for Dallas, if you wanted to mention Dallas, but it's so close to Waco that it wouldn't really fit. There are a lot of big cities in the National Football League, and a lot of these players come from small little towns and can be a little bit overwhelmed whenever they first go to a big city. I remember the first big city that I moved to was Washington, D.C., and I was overwhelmed. D.C. was scary for the first couple of weeks that I was there, but then you start to settle in, and you feel a lot more confident with where it's at. The whole point of this is that Philadelphia should not go ahead and mark Denzel Mims off of their list because of one dumb little quote. One misread little quote as well. Mims will be a great receiver. Mims will be great in Philadelphia. There are a lot of places Mims can go, and even in the first round. If it's not Philadelphia at 21, maybe Minnesota at 22. Obviously, the Vikings again come back at 25. The Dolphins need a wide receiver. The Ravens, maybe they want to throw in a wide receiver. There's a lot of spots for Denzel Mims to go, and I think a lot of teams who will read this quote and not freak out about it, like a lot of people did when they first saw it. Mims scared of Philadelphia, don't believe it. I think he'd be a great Eagle, he'd be a great wide receiver any place that he could potentially go. Now, would you take Denzel Mims in the first round? There are a lot of reports that Philadelphia, even at 21, could be in play for Denzel Mims. What do you guys think? Would you take him in the first round? Type Y down below for yes, type N down below for no. Let me know in the comment section right now. All right, let's move on to Carson Wentz's role in the NFL draft. Now, listen, there's multiple reports saying that Wentz has been giving a lot of his opinions to the front office to try and sway the Eagles to take players that Carson Wentz likes. And apparently, there are people who are upset that Carson Wentz is having more sway than the Eagles, let's say, director of player personnel or draft scout or big board, enthusiast up there in the Eagles front office. And yet, it makes no sense because Carson Wentz should have an input in this draft. Now, the Philadelphia Inquirer has the quote. They say, quote, Wentz's voice has carried significant weight with some in the front office, according to organizational sources, both current and past ones with the Eagles. Now, before we discuss that, do the Eagles go offense or defense in round one? I mean, if Carson Wentz is deciding, they probably need to go offense, but maybe you think they need to go defense. Type O down below for offense, type D down below for defense right now. Now, back to Wentz talking about how he is probably, or I guess the Philadelphia Inquirer talking about how Wentz is weighing in with the front office on draft picks. Listen, here's the deal. Carson Wentz, like I said, should have mega input in the Eagles draft, especially in the first and second round, because that's where they're probably going to go ahead and get a wide receiver. Wentz had an incredible 2019 throwing to lawn chairs and office furniture for wide receivers. They were awful. Carson Wentz deserves a wide receiver, so instead of taking the wide receiver that Howie Roseman or Doug Peterson thinks would work with Carson Wentz, why not get the wide receiver that Carson Wentz thinks would work with Carson Wentz? Because guess what? Carson Wentz has to throw the football. The Eagles' current wide receiver depth chart is not that great. Deshaun Jackson is the only really good wide receiver left here. Maybe Greg Ward turns out to be good. Maybe J.J. Arcega-Whiteside turns out to be good. That's not a guarantee. You want a wide receiver to come in to be a true number one, to be with Carson Wentz for the next 10 years, and hopefully, they go ahead and get that. Now, when you look at first-round draft picks of the Eagles the past couple of years, have they touched skill players? No, they really haven't. Now, Andre Dillard, still helpful for Wentz, but he's not a skill player. Barnett, still helpful on defense, not a skill player. Obviously, Wentz 3 years ago. Aguilar, of course, was the first real wide receiver skill player they have taken. Not really in the recent 3 years, but still was in the Carson Wentz era, I would say. But other ones they've had the past couple of years, Marcus Smith, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox. The Eagles are notorious for not taking skill players in the first round, which, again, a lot of these picks turn out to be pretty good. Cox, Johnson, I think Barnett and Dillard are both very, very good as well, but it's time for them to go ahead and get a wide receiver, and if they're going to get one in the first or second round, then you bet your bottom dollar that Carson Wentz has got to have input. I don't want to hear that Wentz does not deserve to have input in this offense. We gave him a ton of money. He deserves to have as much input as the next coach, scout, or whatever in Philadelphia. Now, subscribe here to Philadelphia Eagles now because we're approaching 8,000 subs, which is huge. But also, if you want to watch the draft live with Chat Sports, go subscribe to youtube.com/chatsportstv. All 7 rounds are going to be covered there on our main channel. You just go up to the search bar and search Chat Sports, literally, and you'll pop right up, and that's where you can watch all 7 rounds live. We were the most watched online draft show last year. We're expecting to do that again here in 2020. The final bit of news and rumor regarding Philadelphia I love is that the Eagles are not going to be taking chances on injured players in this year's NFL draft. So the Eagles are changing their draft philosophy according to GM Howie Roseman, where in the past, they've taken risks on injured players. Players who've been injured in the past but are healthy now, they draft them and hope their injury history does not come back to bite them later on in the player's, playing career in Philadelphia. And listen, the Eagles, in my opinion, going forward, have got to draft and sign players with completely clean injury histories, because the past couple of years, Philadelphia has had the injury bug, and it has plagued a lot of our seasons. If you're healthy, you have a lot better chance of going further and further into the postseason instead of getting knocked out in the wild card, divisional round, or whatever. Here's what Howie Roseman had to say about drafting injured players. Quote, "We can help from a front office perspective by looking at the players that we bring in. Hope is not a strategy when it comes to injuries. When you bring guys in that are injured, it's obviously increased the risk that they will get hurt again." Now, Eagles have not abided by that draft philosophy for a long time. They've drafted guys with injury histories the past couple of years. Mac Hollins is a great example of that. Hollins was injured, obviously, at UNC, comes into Philadelphia, has a decent, rookie year, and then hasn't been seen since as a wide receiver the Eagles needed out there, especially later on in the season last year when a lot of our starting wide receivers were dropping like flies. With the philosophy of not drafting injured players, you can kind of make a list of players that will not be, I guess, taken by the Eagles because of draft injury history. Brandon Ayuk, a guy rumored that Philadelphia is interested in, had a core muscle injury. Laviska Shenault, the wide receiver out of Colorado, again, core muscle surgery just about a month ago. Grant Delpit, broken collarbone in 2018, also had an ankle injury he dealt with last season. Trayvon Diggs, how about him? Cornerback out of Alabama, missed most of the 2018 season with a foot injury. You can kind of pick through the first round and find guys that Philadelphia might not touch now because Howie Roseman has said they're not going to hope that a previously injured player will never be injured again with Philadelphia. Do you guys trust Howie Roseman? Like, there's a saying in Philadelphia, in Howie we trust. Do you trust Howie Roseman? Type T down below for trust, type B down below for bust if the Eagles are not going to do well in this year's NFL draft. Other names just to throw in there, I mean, Jeff Gladney, Javon Kinlaw, Kayvon Chasen, and Van Jefferson, the Florida wide receiver, all have previous injury history as well, so maybe the Eagles steer clear of them because, again, the new philosophy, we don't want injured players because we don't want them injured during the year, which makes perfect sense if you really, really think about it. So, that's all the time we have for today on Philadelphia Eagles Now. Hopefully they nail this draft. And speaking of nailing the draft, tomorrow I will be doing the final 7-round Philadelphia Eagles mock draft here on the channel, which means you're going to want to stay tuned for that because I'm going to do the perfect mock draft for Philadelphia coming up tomorrow. All the time we have for today for Philadelphia Eagles Now, I am Thomas Mott signing off for the rest of your day.